Let's offer a round of applause to greet Rika.
Good morning on this beautiful wintry day in Homer, Alaska. Got close, okay. I want to thank the organizers of this event as well. It's just amazing what you've done. I am deeply honored to be invited to speak today and feel so fortunate to live in this beautiful place among such passionate and generous people. To begin, I'd first like to acknowledge the land upon which we stand, live, and love. This land and surrounding lands across the bay and inlet and all across Alaska, our country and this continent. These lands have been inhabited by indigenous people for many thousands of years before those of us who immigrated only a few hundred years ago. I want to acknowledge the original stewards of these lands, and in so doing, uplift a knowledge base that has deep history and relationship to the land we all currently call home. I feel this responsibility deeply and reach out to you to join together in caring for our common home and family. We must always come from the standpoint of what provides the greatest good for the greatest number for the longest time. Governor Dunleavy recently gave a talk, again stating the tired old declaration that Alaska is a vast and rich storehouse of natural resources that is open for business to the highest bidder. We currently face an onslaught of land grabs in the Arctic, Bristol Bay, the Tongass, and all across Alaska. This exploitative, patriarchal system has created too much pain, domination, and damage, not only to humanity, but to the very web of life itself. It is time for a paradigm shift. It is time for all of us to lift ourselves to a new level of relationship, to meet the future we all care about so deeply. Let's begin right here in Alaska. We must move towards a more maternal embrace of life. All life. It starts at home. It starts with our own engagement right here. It starts with empowerment of women, indigenous people, and young people. It starts with including voices of all ages, colors, and abilities. It starts with compassion, listening, awareness, equity. It starts with lifting people to their greatest strength. The foundation of the paradigm I seek is in empowering women to create a new direction forward. This means, as a maternal system, we embrace indigenous knowledge while we shape resilient economies, serve as stewards of our lands and waters, build more just and equitable communities, and strengthen social structures. Environmental justice directly translates to social justice. Environmental justice is economic justice. Social justice, economic, and environmental justice are completely intertwined. In the new paradigm, I see artists, journalists, educators, scientists, small-scale farmers, and land stewards being truly supported. I see humility, compassion, and moral courage being valued more than brash power and authority. I see beauty and intention instead of short-sighted profit-making. I see nature having legal standing in our judicial system. I see leadership instead of politics. Fortunately, we have people all over the world, including right here, speaking up, demanding action, lifting up others, having difficult conversations, helping people recover from disasters and acts of violence, and reminding those in power that they are accountable. I am blessed to know so many of you who are doing this work, and I am so privileged to stand with you. I look at young Greta Thunberg. She has taken the world by storm. Let's lift and empower our young Gretas in our communities. I thank the many strong and capable women right here in Homer, serving on councils, commissions, boards, and leading organizations. Statewide, women are in leadership roles that strengthen communities, enhance cultural opportunities, build networks towards food security, protect the environment, defend the marginalized, and offer services to those who most need them. Women are standing up and leading like never before. Kelly Cooper is doing an amazing job on the Borough Assembly. And she is now running for State House. Yeah. Elise Galvin is running for Congress with the moral courage to take on Don Young again. Both of these strong, smart, articulate women have my vote this fall, and I hope they have yours. We also need to retire Diane Sullivan with Al Gross. We need to use our votes to support candidates that demonstrate integrity, vision, and the commitment to lead on behalf of real people. This year commemorates the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote. Of course this is cause for celebration, but I cannot feel whole until there is true equity and that all citizens are not only empowered to vote, but that their voices are truly heard. In closing, please know that your voice matters. I believe my voice matters. There are so many ways that our voices can be heard, through letters, phone calls, community engagement, meaningful dialogue, or taking on leadership roles. At this most critical time in our history, the one sure way that every one of our voices can be heard is to vote. Your voice is critical. Your voice matters, and your vote will carry into future generations. We have momentum. In this year of 2020, let's take the helm. Thank you.
Let's offer a round of applause to greet Sochi.
Good morning, Homer. Thank you. My name is Sochi Lopez-Ayala, and my pronouns are she, her. I am on the board of directors for NWAF, representing Alaska in the Northwest, as well as on the board for KBFPC here in Homer. I am a reproductive rights advocate and recently pursuing more reproductive justice solutions for us in Alaska. Thank you for allowing me to be able to be here and share with you and recognizing this power we hold together. Before I get started, I wanted to let you know that if you or someone you know are experiencing sexual or domestic violence, please know there are resources and our community is available to help you. Also, after the march, there will be outreach tables at the college, ranging in a variety of resources for everyone. And I encourage you all to join our community and conversations that we're working towards. We'll pause for the cause while Zumba lets out. I want to talk a little bit about women's voting rights and reproductive justice here in the state of Alaska. I know we are here to celebrate women's right to vote for 100 years, but let's remember that not all women received the right to vote 100 years ago. This fight wasn't won 100 years ago, and it won't be won unless we continue to press forward. Alaska as a territory granted women full voting rights in 1913, 7 years before the 19th Amendment. While white women in Alaska Territory could now vote, indigenous Native women could not. Activists like us advocated for Native suffrage rights. In 1915, the Alaska Territorial Legislature recognized the right of indigenous people to vote if they gave up tribal customs and traditions. Outside of Alaska, it wasn't until the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which secured the same right for most marginalized communities, including English-speaking Latinx individuals like my maternal grandmother. Speaking of marginalized communities, Black Lives Matter not being asked to participate in the Women's March across the country today, including my hometown of Los Angeles, shows that we have a long way to go for intersectional feminism amongst ourselves. We need to acknowledge the systemic oppression faced by women of color and indigenous Native women to gain their right to vote and speak out against injustices. Sacrificing their traditions, language barriers at the ballot box, unreliable transportation or access to polling places, and other forms of voter suppression, all to simply cast a ballot. It is important to note that this targeted suppression also takes place in rural and marginalized communities. In 2004, 24 villages in Alaska did not even have polling places. Recognizing our past and making a change is how we can work together to further our path for equal rights for all people. If we want to advocate for full rights for women and all people, we need to continue to promote easier voting access on or before Election Day. Ways to make voting more accessible include mail-in ballots, ride-sharing programs, extending voting rights to folks who are incarcerated, and even our relentless encouragement of state and federal representatives to have Election Day as a state or national holiday. So when we obtain this victory, it will give Alaskan employees ample time to exercise their voting rights by having the day off, and it is a dream we will make a reality. If you think your voice or vote doesn't matter, let me remind you that many of you showed up and spoke with your signature to affirm the Recall Dunleavy campaign. Your voice has now started the second round of signature collection process that begins in February. Let's not forget the line item vetoes that Governor Dunleavy issued and the retaliatory veto to remove funding from the Judicial Court, which was unconstitutional. Dunleavy's response to the judicial veto is, quote, the annual cost of elective abortions is reflected by this reduction, end quote. We need to remind our governor and legislators that we still need access to safe and legal abortion. I mean, it's still legal in the state of Alaska as well as in the United States. Dunleavy's unconstitutional actions will not scare us, and we will not back down, and we will not let him forget that we are watching. I have had the honor of being in a few rallies last year, and I continue to look out at this crowd of powerful folks who are representing here today. Women, men, cis, transgender, and non-binary folks, you'll continue to inspire me by putting in work and showing up. I'm proud of you. And Terry Lynn, you're right, my fingers are cold. The National Women's Liberation Movement has summarized our struggle for reproductive rights clearly in the following passage. In other countries, the value of reproductive care work is recognized and compensated with universal programs such as health care for all, paid parental leave, and free childcare. The programs that exist in the United States are inadequate and keep us dependent on employers and the men in our lives. Rather than creating social programs, we need to make it easier to choose whether to parent. They restrict our access to abortion and birth control. The 1% is holding our reproductive capacity hostage as federal and state governments have pursued a nationalist program to promote childbearing that relies on the prohibition and inaccessibility of abortion, birth control, and scientifically accurate sex education. In Jenny Brown's book, The Birth Strike, Hidden Fight Over Women's Work, she makes the case that women are responding to this lack of support and are on a birth strike or a slowdown. Indeed, the U.S. birth rate is now below replacement rate, and in response, we've never seen greater attacks on birth control and abortion. Just so you all know, Jenny Brown's book is available at the Homer Bookstore, shop local. Many of us are choosing to have families later due to lack of affordable housing, childcare, medical costs, and being overworked, especially in Alaska where our cost of living is higher. This has been true for my husband Don and I. We've been married for 11 years and we have talked several times about starting our family. Unable to dedicate a full income loss to take care of a child and pay our rising rent, or having to take on a second job due to rising childcare costs has definitely been a heavy burden in our family planning process. It isn't ideal to keep pushing off having a family together, yet due to these factors, we are subconsciously contributing to this birth strike. Also available at the Homer bookstore, the book, Without Apology, The Abortion Struggle Now. It reiterates that, quote, throughout history, abortion and birth control have been restricted together and freed together. Misnamed fetal pain bills, heartbeat bills, and partial birth abortion bans primarily serve as propaganda and are designed to soften up the opposition instead of for the real goal, banning all abortions. Perpetrators of forced birth, forced sterilization, unsafe contraceptives, and other crimes have used racism to dehumanize us and our actions, end quote. I understand this sounds repetitive, and I want to confide in you all for a moment. Work in these administrations is tough, and I often lose sight of the forest through the trees. It's tiresome, but I look out at you all in the community, and I know that I'm not going to stop, and neither should you. We need to continue to fight, we need to continue to advocate, and we need to continue to repeating that we matter. I know these long days and nights are worth it, because you're worth it. We're worth it. We're all in this together. We need to continue to promote reproductive necessities, birth control, STD prevention, sex education in schools, and acknowledging women's unpaid labor in childbearing, among many others. We are here to empower each other, and we are perfectly capable of having this empowerment ourselves. When the government controls our bodily autonomy and infringes on our access, it opens the doors for such procedures as forced sterilization and decreases reproductive access to contraceptives, as well as our choices in family planning. Legitimizing this control of the government will continue to lead us down a dangerous path we have been fighting. I want you all to remember that Roe versus Wade was not about the moral implications of abortion. It was about safety, equal access, and especially the right to privacy in a person with a uterus choosing to have an abortion. These decisions are allowing people to evaluate their own situations and then choose what is best in their unique circumstances. So what can we do going forward? We need to make sure we are not complacent. We need to commit to keep pushing for sex and reproductive education for everyone, not just for our children, but for teens and adults. Alaska has a rising rate of STDs, rape, and domestic violence, which is a failure of sexual health and consent education. We need to remind our legislators that reproductive health is healthcare. They need to know we want them to advocate for access to low-cost or free contraceptives and know that abortion is healthcare. We need to inform that a range of sexual and gender orientations exist, and nothing to be ashamed of. If we need our elected officials to introduce bills that would help and inform people rather than shelter and control. And finally, we need to continue our fight for bodily autonomy, as it is our human right, our right. I always feel like you guys are like giving me a big hug in these situations, and it gives me a great feeling of unity, so I hope that you also feel that as well. I want you to commit to supporting reproductive rights and justice, not just today, but every day. Because look around you. These are all the people that are with you in this cause. I want you to know that there are folks who are benefiting from reproductive access and education. There are folks you may not know who are impacted by your strength and courage in this fight. There are people who will never have the chance to thank you. So thank you. I'm feeling honored by all the hard work we have recognized prior to us, grateful for all the trust you have given me to speak today, and excited and determined for the fight going forward. Thank you all.
Let's offer a round of applause to welcome Kelly Cooper.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting. A little closer, maybe? Little closer. Thank you so much for inviting me back this year. I'm honored to be here and grateful for the privilege of sharing the podium with Rika and Sochi. Let's give them another hand. Yesterday, as I lay on my couch trying to figure out how I could somehow get this cold of all colds to go away in less than a day, my campaign manager, Amy Woodruff, said, yeah, where is she? Right there. She sent me this article from the New Yorker titled, The Electable Female Candidate, written by Claire Friedman. One paragraph reads, she knows how to change a tire, fix a 3D printer, launch a torpedo, unlaunch a torpedo, and juggle wet bars of soap. She's a boomer, but she has a great sense of humor about the phrase, okay, boomer. You get the idea. It made me laugh, but that caused me to break out in a sneezing and coughing fit. I then realized I had not a chance of curing my cold in a day. And as a woman, I struggle with trying to be everything to everyone. We've all experienced this. The day before an important event, we come down with something. We have this debate in our head. You're too sick to go. Call and cancel. Oh no, you can't cancel. That's too short a notice. I wonder if the dosage in this cold medicine is just a guideline. Thankfully, it's not the dreadful man cold. So here I am today, runny nose and all, grateful for the opportunity to be part of this year's Women Rising. I'm certain you're wondering why I felt the need to share my recent struggle with a cold interfering with my commitment to today's event. The young people we are trying to reach are struggling with these same insecurities and need to know it's okay to worry about things out of our control. We're going to stumble, but that's not what people will remember. They will remember your passion, your enthusiasm, your willingness to step up, and most importantly, it's not what we say, it's what we do. So tell all the youth here that they do make a difference, and we need you. We need you. The women's suffrage movement helps me remember to be patient and persistent as we celebrate the 100-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment finally being ratified. We must remember it took decades to get passed. The movement began clear back in 1848, but it was delayed because of the Civil War. And then later women said, wait, what? You need our help with civil rights? Okay, what can we do? But it also splintered the women's movement. While many supported the passage of the 15th Amendment, guaranteeing the right to vote to men of color, there were those that opposed it, thinking it was the opportunity to push for universal suffrage. And of course, World War I again slowed the campaign, but in the end, it helped our cause. With women's work on behalf of the war effort, it proved we were just as patriotic and deserving as men. After it finally passed, in August of 1920, 8 million women across the United States voted in elections for the first time. Women rising! There's a reason I'm not speaking about a particular leader in the women's movement. The unnamed women of more than one generation that fought for us for all those decades are the women that got us over the finish line. They were not the women speaking from a podium. They were you. We are living in unprecedented times. And as I look around this crowd today, I'm assured you will be the ones to find the solutions. None of it would have been possible if those women had not brought the younger generation with them. The women who started the suffrage movement in 1848 certainly weren't the ones that were able to finally get it passed in 1920. Look at the crowd gathered today. We're aging. We are. To the people here today, to the younger people here today, we need you. There is much left to do. To the older ones in the crowd, thank you for all you do. But you're not finished. Reach out to the younger people. Bring the younger people in our community and invite them to the table. Listen to them, mentor them, and make sure they vote. Let's look back on historical events and elections where every vote mattered. The impeachment trial of President Andrew Johnson. The Senate voted 35 to 19 against conviction. One vote short of the 2/3 majority required to remove him from office. When Congress approved the 19th Amendment granting suffrage to women, it needed to be approved by 3/4 of the states. By the summer of 1920, only one more state was needed to ratify the amendment. In Tennessee, that state, it quickly passed the Senate, but stalled in the House. When it came time to vote, Representative Harry Byrne changed his mind at the last minute at the urging of his mother. You can call it urging. I think she has more. Allowing the amendment to pass by one vote. Women rising. Let's look at Alaska politics. Bryce Edgmond, our current Speaker of the House, won his primary race in 2006 by a coin toss to break the tie. And don't forget the close race in Fairbanks in 2018 between Catherine Dodge, a Democrat, and Bart LeBon, a Republican, with the winner determining which party would control the House. Nationwide in 2018, there are a record number of women who ran and won seats in Congress. Women rising and voting. Voting also doesn't mean that your candidate or your position will always win. But failing to vote means that you create greater opportunity for candidates or positions you support to lose. And you create more chance that candidates or ideas that you don't support will win. This is probably the most important part of exercising your right to vote. You opt out of the entire political process when you don't vote, and you lose the opportunity of allowing your thoughts and opinions to hold sway. I leave you with this challenge. Invite and encourage a young person to serve on a committee or a board this year. Help them run for office. Ask them how we can hear their voices. Ask them how we get young people to vote. If you're still not sure their involvement is important, remember the decades it took to pass the 19th Amendment. It does take patience and persistence. Women of all ages rising together to make change that matters. Thank you.